Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for Micro One's second forum on our company data partnerships program. Today, I'm joined by our CRO, William, and founder, Ali Ansari, will be joining any minute now, but we just figured we wouldn't make you wait any longer and we'll just jump right into it. So, over the next 30 minutes, we have some time to go over our company data partnerships program and walk through how the program works and how companies can get paid for workflows that they're already running every day. This can be a payout anywhere between $100,000 to $2 million for your company workflows. So super interesting initiative that we're running, and happy to share more information. So I'll just jump right into it and pass it off to you. Will, do you want to give us a little more information or an overview about Micro One and why we're launching this program?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Sydney, for the introduction. So a little bit about Micro One. As probably everyone knows, we work with leading AI labs, providing human data services. The way that we've been helping these labs is primarily through human data, in a sense that we use our proprietary AI recruiter to source and find professionals across different industries. These professionals then simulate environments. They produce human data using their knowledge plus the micro and training. Once we've once we've achieved a data structure that can actually train models, we then provide that data set, that human data as a product to our partners. And then they use that data, of course, to not only train, but also to evaluate their models. We've been seeing an increased demand from labs to really understand a little bit more what really happens inside an enterprise, right? As I mentioned, because we hire so many professionals from different industries, they also come quite often from different companies, which means that they're simulating environments, they're simulating workflows that would usually happen inside a company. Right now, we're jumping to a second phase of post training where we want to get insights into the actual real life, what challenges professionals usually face whenever they're trying to accomplish a workflow, how current models today perform on a given workflow. And the best way to do that is to move from simulated environments to the actual company environment, right? So because of that, we've launched an initiative where we're inviting companies that are forward-looking, of course, and want to participate in AI development. We're inviting these companies to share anonymized workflow trajectories with us. The way that they do this is essentially sharing a little bit more about how agents perform within their own company, in a sense that we will not only have one employee from a given company, but we have multiple employees and the entire company together collaborating towards that effort. We're talking about departments such as sales, such as marketing, finance, in a way that the agent would have access to whatever data source it's being required for them to complete that workflow, right, from start to end. Let's say they need to consult Gmail, they need to open a Google Sheet, they need to check communication on Slack in order to achieve the desired output. So we're inviting companies that are willing to share that trajectory, that data with us, just so our partners can further understand where models are failing at today, further understand why they should double down on training. I think the ultimate goal from all of our partner labs is to really make sure that their agents can really help every company and its employees to really perform their job securely, more reliably, and also to increase their productivity. So we're essentially moving from simulated environments again to the actual work environment to really understand the nuances within an actual enterprise. And with that insight, of course, we would take a huge leap and take model training to the next phase.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that overview, Will. I think it really paints the picture of why we're launching this program and working with companies to purchase their real world workflows. When we say real world workflows, can you give us some more information on what that actually means and what that looks like? A lot of questions I get when I have these calls with potential clients are, what kind of data are you looking for? So I think it would be helpful to dive into what that actually looks like in practice.
Yeah, of course. When you think about workflows, you can think about any given task that a professional within a company would perform. When you think about a task, you of course have very simple and small tasks, which are, for example, just to redline a contract if we're talking about legal, or if we're talking about sales, just to go to the CRM and check the new inbound flow that arrived that day. But when we think about workflows that can actually improve models, we're thinking about long horizon type of workflows, and that means that the agent itself or the employee in that case would have to go through multiple data sources. In the case that I just mentioned, they would have to go to the CRM to double check the contacts associated to a given company opportunity. Then from there, they would have to double check the names inside whatever software the company is managing for contracts to understand what's the status of that contract. They would then need to go to Slack, for example, to understand what was the latest communication with the general counsel or any paralegal to understand what's the latest on that contract. Is there anything that perhaps I'm missing? Should I follow up with the client? So when you think about workflows, you can just think about any given task that you would perform on a weekly or a daily basis. And usually, what's most interesting to us are long horizon tasks, which means that those tasks they usually take a little bit longer for you to complete because again, they involve some sort of complexity, different applications, different data sources, where of course you also have to use your human judgment to arrive to outcome. So what we want to do is we want agents to be capable to really understand the nuances and the different sources of data, being able to perform coherent workflows that don't leave any data point behind, right? As humans, as employees, we're very attentive to detail. We want to make sure that we're capturing information and that information is helping us further advancing a given task that perhaps your manager gave you. With agents, the long horizon tasks is where we see agents failing the most because again, they cannot lose any context while they're performing those flows.
Makes total sense. I think this might be a good time to explain the two different paths that we have as an opportunity within the company data partnerships program. We have the opportunity for us to purchase companies' corpus data, so purchase all the data exported from these different platforms that you're talking about that they use on the day to day, like Slack, Google Workspace. But we also have another segment of this program, which could be a reoccurring revenue stream, which is the workflows part. Do you want to dive in and explain the difference between these two and give an overview? Maybe Elliot, if you want to jump in here.
Yeah, happy to. Sorry for the delay, guys, and thanks, Will, for the great intro there. Yeah, I think what Will was explaining kind of summarizes and in some ways entails both of these. But yes, as Sydney said, there's two specific pipelines that are both around this idea of realistic data that exists within companies. The first is what we call the workflows pipeline, which is essentially team members doing real tasks on these frontier AI tools within their company, similar to what Will was saying of examples of tasks such as maybe you're answering a specific email, maybe you're creating some graphic for a marketing campaign, maybe you're developing some web application, maybe you're creating some scope documents, whatever it is, whatever function you're in, doing these tasks within these frontier tools, which are the sort of tools that you think about. Those tasks that are complete becomes one trajectory that companies can get paid for. And there's kind of a variable pay, but you could think of it as like approximately $900 per task that is submitted that may take a couple hours to do. And this allows the companies to essentially encourage their team members to use AI in their real tasks. Because again, the goal is for us to have team members within these companies do their actual work on these tools, not some random different tasks that is just for the sake of model training. It is for them to actually go on with their day, doing their tasks, but using AI tools to do it so that their job actually becomes more efficient, but also they get paid for that, and the company gets sort of a revenue run rate from that. So that's the summary of the workflows pipeline. And then the second pipeline is what we call corpus, which is also what Sydney was referring to. This one's a little bit different. Again, they're both related to kind of realistic data within companies, but this one is specifically an anonymized snapshot of all existing data that you've generated over the next or over the last, X number of years that you've been operating the company. We're interested in anonymizing that data and using it for what's called seeding data for environments that get created. So this is like unstructured and structured databases. So unstructured could be, Slack workspaces, Google Drives, etc. But and then structured is more of the perhaps like product usage data that exists within the bounds of actually having the ability to share those data points. So that is a different pipeline, which the range for that is like anywhere from a couple $100,000 up to a couple million that we pay sort of like a one-time fee to get that corpus to then use in an anonymized fashion as seeding data for these environments that we create. So that's kind of the summary of both pipelines.
Yeah, and a just a quick note to add to the Corpus pipeline, where we actually take a snapshot of the company. We're primarily looking for companies that have more than 30 active desk employees, companies that have the majority of their data in English, right? And the way that we sort of value the data set is really to understand how unique that data set is, what is the size, what are the sources and the applications that are being used, and by who and how many people are really jumping into those applications. Everything combined helps us to define the price range that Ali mentioned to really price that data set. And the way that we do this, I'm not sure if Siri is going to ask this as a follow-up question. The way that we do this is super simple. We have a call with the company to further explain and address their questions. Once we've identified that there is a fit, we send that company a data manifest, which is essentially a company telling us what is the size of their data, what are the applications, what are the types of files that they're willing to share, a little bit more about the company. They're not sharing anything confidential at that point, but this data manifest gives us the ability to really scope out the scope of work, the partnership, and to really price the data set. Once we've sent the proposal to the company, and this happens in a matter of 1 to 2 days, so again, extremely fast. Once the company has received our pricing, they can decide to move forward, of course. And if they do, we have a data licensing agreement that includes all the data principles, how we take care of your data, security, PII, confidentiality treatment. And then from there, of course, we kick off the data transfer, which again is a process that can take from anywhere from 1 to 7 days. It depends on the data packaging. But we do this in-house. Everything is encrypted. What we want to do here is also give our clients the visibility to understand from data sources what is the actual progress, if that data is being either pulled or pushed. And then from there, of course, we want to delete that data. Any confidential information is not really important to Micro One. We just want to make sure that the data is cohesive and agents can perform coherent workflows. As Ali mentioned, we're thinking about this as seed data for potential environments in a way that there has to be a completeness of the data, and the data as a whole has to be complete and to really showcase how the company actually works today. And one other note that I would add on the companies that we're looking for active businesses, because of course we want to make sure that the agent can train on the latest advancements in software, in tooling, and so forth.
Yeah, sorry, Cindy. Just one other note here. I think the one common question we get is like, what type of companies? It's really all types right now. We are, we're building models that are general intelligence, which means we need to go across like many different domains, and so we have companies that are very much in the physical world, for example, like HVAC company or like a company that builds cooling for GPUs, let's say. But they still have some desk employees. There's like digital work that comes with that. And so those are fine. And then we have more typical kind of SaaS companies as well. So it's a very, very broad range. There isn't really domains that we don't accept. So any company type that you have in mind, whether it's your company or a company that you want to refer, if they have more than 30 desk employees, and sometimes it could be a little bit below based on some specific qualifications, it will likely qualify. So we're going to very, very broad for now. And the whole point of this is, again, it goes back to realistic RL and realistic RL environments that we're going to be setting up, which is going to be very exciting for model training. And we're going to see, I think we're going to see a really nice inflection point on model improvements based on this realistic RL, which will therefore improve the productivity and workflows of these companies. And I think that the interesting part is also if you are part of this, it is more likely that the model slightly improves for you a bit more, right? I mean, it's hard to like quantify this, of course, but if you're like a big part of how model improvements happen in the realistic environments, probably the model will be slightly optimized, and indexed on your workflows specifically, which is like a kind of a cool byproduct of being involved in this project.
Exactly. You guys are making my job easy. Those were the questions I was just going to ask. I was going to say, what are the requirements we're looking for? So if you're a company that has at least 30 full-time employees, you're ideally based in the US, your data is in English, you have been operating for at least 5 years or enough time to have a decent amount of data, at least 1 terabyte. These are all the qualifications that we're looking for with barely any restrictions around the industry. So if that seems like a fit for you, my inbox is open. It's just Sydney@micro1.ai. You can also DM me on LinkedIn, and we can start that process that Will was talking about, going through the intro call, getting your data manifest in the door, and giving you a quote for how much your data could be worth. I think now is a good time to also mention that we have our first cohort for purchasing the Corpus data workflows by July 8th. So we have 7 more days to get a few more companies in the door. So if you move very fast, you want to be a part of this, please reach out as soon as possible so we can consider you for the program. Another question, I know we only have 10 minutes left, but another question that I think we should cover in depth is how we handle privacy and PII. I know this is something that a lot of people have a lot of questions about. So can we just dive into how we actually transform this data and make sure there's no personal identifiable information going anywhere outside of the data transfer?
Yeah, happy to touch on this. Will feel free to add. I'll summarize here. I think there is three main things I will point at. The first is PII transformations, and the aim is every time a data corpus is submitted to us, we will anonymize the data by doing transformations on all personally identifiable information. So if there's a certain name on a document, certain name on a Slack channel, whatever it is, we map that to different randomized names that does not go back to that one person. And similarly, if there's emails and addresses and so forth, we do a similar thing where we don't redact or remove it because that results in the noise of the data that we need is no longer there, but we transform it, which means it is effectively removed, but it is still very useful for model training. So that's the first. The second is data retention. So our goal is, I believe in what we say is like we keep it in the contract. I believe we say we keep it as up to 180 days, but usually it's much less than this. Once we are done with training and seeding environments and so forth, that data is no longer in our database and is completely deleted. So that's the second pillar that I would point at. And then I think the third is we aim to have as much of the corpus as we can get because like Will was saying earlier, we need to have a cohesiveness to the data where an agent can, if it's looking at a certain document, but it needs to refer to some like Slack channel or some like Monday project board, it needs to have those things to refer to. If it's not there, then the agent actually breaks because the seeding data is actually not complete. So what we aim for is as complete as we can get on the data. However, we are okay with exclusions, and the company can exclude what they feel is too sensitive. Oftentimes, this is product usage data. We actually recommend and we actually require that you exclude like trade secret data and like legal protected data. Like these sort of things are all things that we make sure we exclude. But also there are other things that the company can opt into excluding, which we're okay with, which of course, in some cases might reduce the price a little bit and might reduce the cohesiveness. So there's like some discussions that we have usually about these. but it's a very opt-in process on which ones you want to actually exclude. So those are three things I would say. Will, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, you covered everything.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, we're open to taking questions from the audience. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. Some questions that I saw roll in that maybe we want to have some clarification around is, are we only looking for companies based in the US, or are we also open to different geographic regions? Do you want to dive in and share a little bit more information about those requirements?
Yeah, we're primarily focused on US companies. However, if and we want to keep a certain ratio, of course, prioritizing US companies. However, if a company is from outside of the US and we understand that that data type, that company business is unique to what we're looking for, and also compared to the companies that we already have in our cohort, we would be more than glad to consider.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Will. Another question we have come in is, how anonymized would the data be, particularly when it relates to people's biodata? So this kind of gets us into the topic of working with healthcare companies. How do we handle these types of this type of data, and are we open to working with companies of this type?
We actually we avoid this type of data for the most part. We can talk about the specifics based on like what is the actual data that they're aiming to share with us. So if there's a specific company that wants to reach out, we can talk about this more specifically. But more broadly, we aim to uh, not have any medical data as well as not have any legal data. But there's some adjacencies that there's like some exceptions. So I don't want to like completely exclude these two categories, but for the most part, these are sensitive data points that we avoid for the most part.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm also seeing questions come in about if US and Canada counts. I think the answer to that is we are also accepting Canadian companies. So that falls into the same bucket, just to clarify that over there. Yeah, I think we're coming up on time, and I don't see too many more questions in the chat. So if anyone has any more questions that you didn't get clarified, feel free to email me. And yeah, just to
Yeah.
reiterate, we're yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Cindy. Just
Mhm.
one thing before we wrap. I don't know if we touched on this, but we have a pretty crazy referral program, which is $50,000 per company referred. And when we say these things, it sounds like a full-on advertisement because it's like crazy numbers. But the reality is that there's a lot of demand for this data, that's why these payments are quite high. Um, and so if you refer a company, it's a very simple process. If you refer a company and we work with the company and we pay them and we sign with them. Once the data is fully transferred and the company gets their payment, you also get $50,000 as a referral bonus, which is again, it sounds like unrealistic and like not like it sounds almost like fake, but it's like literally the referral program amount. So if you refer companies, feel free to just go to refer.micro1.ai and you can see you can see the opportunity there, and then you can just put the link of the company and the email of the company directly. And then once they sign up with your link, then the referral gets attributed to you. And just
Mhm.
like a quick note on this, we look at data, spend as just beginning to increase. Of course, there's a lot of spend right now. Maybe it's in the 10 to 20 billion a year, roughly, of like total spend from labs. But we've written about this publicly, but we believe that overall data spend is going to approach $1 trillion a year, order of magnitude of $1 trillion a year, soon, maybe in the next few years. And so these like anomaly referral programs and like high amounts that companies get paid for their data and so forth is like this acceleration of increase in investment that's happening. So if it sounds a bit crazy to some folks, I just want to like remind people of this, because if you compare, and it's not a direct like apple to apple comparison, obviously, but if you compare like compute spend, which is already in the order of magnitude of $1 trillion, and then you look at data, it's like way less than that. And we believe that they will actually be in the similar order of magnitude pretty soon, and that's happening now. So that's why there's a lot of there's a lot of money to be made essentially for companies and for experts that are contributing to this.
Yeah, and I just, as a last note here, I want to mention that we believe as a company that this initiative is going to expand by a massive amount of enterprises and companies licensing their data, which means that this opportunity right now, the timing is really of the essence because we're paying premium, of course, for those data corpuses in corpora. But then in a future world where we have, of course, increased demand and pretty much all companies are moving towards this, uh, the commercial conditions will probably change, which of course makes this opportunity even more enticing, compelling, to really be one of the first companies to really contribute to AI development.
Yeah, this is a really important point because I mean, just like any other markets, as they accelerate and grow to certain amounts, they will eventually normalize. And the folks that are early, which are experts and now companies, that's where a lot of more value can be added, and therefore more economic value can be taken in from them as well. So yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing all the details about the program. I think this answers a lot of questions that people have and really showcases what an amazing opportunity it is for companies to get involved in AI, learn more about how to implement it internally at their companies, and support the broader ecosystem. If you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me, Sydney at microone.ai. I'll also send over a lot of the content that we talked about in the follow-up email from this forum, like the referral link, the link to learn more about the program, and follow some more details as well. So thank you so much for joining, and we will get this video out to you shortly.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.